Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is CoinX and you're welcome to CoinxDaProducer. So today's video is a continuation to the previous video we treated. And just a quick clarification, if you have zero knowledge about producing, this video is not actually for you because this requires you to know how to create beats, how to manipulate doors and all that, alright? So the core concept here is to help you speed up to that pro ready to go output that we all love and want. And all these things you listen to right now came from a reference track. I mean, this is for those that haven't watched the first episode. And I would encourage you to watch that one first so that you can easily understand what is going on. So just to show you what we extracted, here is the kick. Very clean. And many other ones, but these are the few we use for the drums. So I'll be showing you how to extract the melodies like the bass, the chord, and any other thing existing in the reference track. And remember, this is our reference track from Davido. Looking at this track, what I will be focusing now on is all the elements in the keys. Let me just call it keys. So let me mute this and bring in the extracted keys. Here we have the keys or the instruments. And also the bass. Alright, so what I'll be doing now is, like I told you in the previous video, I will be using these samples to create a playable VST where you can now use it to reproduce your own track. And why are we going this route? So that we'll retain the mix quality of the reference track. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do now is to start with the keys. Now, for us to achieve this, we need to list out the instruments we can hear from the whole project, from the whole reference track. So just by listening, you can hear a piano. But there is a challenge. This piano came as a chord sound and it is in wave. So it will be a little bit difficult to manipulate this. Take for example is just a one note sample that is easy, alright, because the process I will teach you in converting any audio into a playable VST requires a single note, alright? So with this approach, it will be difficult to just cut out this and use it. So what I will do now is to approach this by just listening to the instrument and try to find that instrument. Maybe you can use any VST, you can decide to use inside FL Studio, you can use Flex, find a similar sound to that, okay? But for me, that is like a whole lot of job for me, all right? Not like it's laziness, okay? Just I'm trying to keep it as easy, as simple as possible. So that brings us to this section. There is these two sides I usually use for things like this. The first one is this. Why I like this site is because, one, it gives you access to choosing the key of the sample you want to use, all right? And also give you room where you can search the type of instrument you want to use. And over here, you can see the mode. If you want to go for the major, the minor, it has important filters that will help us get exactly what we want. Judging from the reference track, you can see it's actually a soft piano, right? Now, so what I will do is to come over here, can decide to type soft piano, then I will search and it is going to populate results. And as you can see, the results it gave, this is not similar to what we want. I think this is close. So if you like this, you can decide to download it and have in mind, hold on a sec. I think this is under the free. I'm not sure at this point. But for example, if you like this one, you can decide to download it, right? So you see it's the free one. So you just log in with your Google account. Now it has started downloading. As you can see, it is done downloading. So that is one of the ways I go about this. I like giving multiple options just in case. Another way you can also do it is by using this other site, which is more AI-ish. So here it's more prompt based. Type it in. You can as well specify your key and the rest of it. And this is what I came up with. All right, so as you can see, both of them are pretty nice. So let me bring in the downloaded file inside FL Studio. Let me mute these ones first. And this is it. Not bad. This is another one. Not bad. This one, I think this is the best. So now that we've gotten the sample, let's say we want to use this one. Oh, okay, let me go with this one. So the first thing you're going to do is to right click on it, open it in editor, and under here, come over to this icon here, click on that and say dictate pitch region. Why are we finding out the pitch region? We need to find out the root notes of this sample. As you can see, it is A. Okay, so have that in mind. This is A, and the next thing to do is to now come over here, right click on that and said create a DirectWave instrument. So at this point, I think I need to apologize to non-FL Studio users, but I think many other DAWs have similar approach to this. So if you have any way you can convert a WAV file into a DirectWave and a playable VST, you can do that. But if you don't, I think I will encourage you to get FL Studio. All right, so at this point, I will just name the piano. I'll just leave it like this and I will save. Then I'll come over here. Remember the root notes we saw is A, right? So you come over to this low root note, which is the first one, and you type in that A. So let's say it is not A, something else, you just drag it and change it, okay? So for the zone, I don't really do much. Then for the high notes, you can decide where you want it to end. Let me just say another A. I don't want it to go too much far. Let's say A8. All right, I think I need to bring it down a little bit. A. All right, at this point, I'm okay. All right, but it's all up to you, the extent you want to go on that octave, all right? So once that is done, you just click start. It will process it, and automatically you have a playable VST instrument for that particular sample, all right? And as you can see, it came with the name. So when you now play anything, let me quickly open it in piano roll. You can say, turn off this. You can see, you can now play it as a chord. Forgive me, let me sort this first. So you can see now we have a chord, all right? And at this point, you can now manipulate and create anything you want. If that is actually what you're going for, but I'm just using this to show you, all right? So at this point, we've gotten the piano sound we want. Now, the next thing is to look out for another instrument to bring in. So let me just color this so I can easily find, all right? So for chords, I'm going to delete this because this is not what we'll be using. Now, I'll go for the bass because those are the two most important elements I love going for first. Bring in the extracted bass. which is this one here, right? So just drag it and drop it here. And what I actually did was just to come here on the bass stem, open it in Edison and highlight the section I want and drag it and come to and open this thing and paste it, and you get, all right, you get your sample. But it's important to clean it before that, which I've already talked about how to clean it, which is by opening the bass inside Backbone and split the transient and correct any issues with the bass. All right, so this is the bass we'll be using. Right click, create DirectWave instrument. This will be for bass. I'll save it here. And before then, sorry, we need to check the root of the bass is D. So when we are now creating the DirectWave, we set it to D3. Let me verify that once more. Okay, D2, if you can see it clearly here. So it's D2. Right click. So as you can see, it's very important to carefully check all those things. D2. All right. And maybe I don't need to go far. All right, I'm okay at this point. Then I start it. And at this point, we now have our, let me delete this one first. At this point, we have our piano and we have our bass. Okay. So with these two now, I can actually keys. So with these two, I can start creating my melody. So let's quickly get a chord idea and I'll be right back. Alright, so I was able to come up with this, and if you listen closely, you'll notice that it sounded almost similar to the reference track. So let me quickly preview the reference track so that you understand what I mean. So you can see I followed almost similar progression, right? And the reason I did that is for easier comparison. So what happened here is after coming up with the tone from the site, and I converted the downloaded tone, piano tone, into a VST instrument, which is this one right here, instead of FL Studio. Now, since the sample didn't come from the reference track, there are things to put into consideration. Things like the room reverb, the frequency shape, and the stereo width of the sample. Having all those things in mind, I had to bring in tools like Spectral Balance by Ascentize. I actually use this one to match the original EQ shape onto the one I recreated, which is the piano right here. Okay, and how I did that was to come, if you pay close attention here, you'll see the Davido piano. I come up here and I click on this section here. As you can see, it will bring up this menu, and here you will now listen to the target material, which is the piano. So all I did was to enable it play, and it will capture the tonal structure. Then after that, it will request for you to save it, and I saved it as Davido piano. And once that was done, I muted it. Then I come over here on the channel where the piano is, my own piano. I inserted the plugin and now select the captured profile, which is the one I labeled Davido piano. And what is now happening is that it will force it to look similar to the target profile. All right, let me just play so that you see what is happening. It is now listening to the profile set and trying to adjust our own sound to match the profile. So after that, the next thing I did was I realized that the reference track has a different stereo width when compared it to my own piano. So what I did was to use Ozone Imager, which is a free plugin, to first listen to the reference track, now saw the size of the stereo width, memorize that, and then played my own, try to use this width knob here to set it. All right. So what I was looking at was I made sure I watch the movement here in the reference track. Let me just show you. When you play the reference track, all right, I need to turn off this and this. So when you play it, you can see what is happening here. So you see it has a whole lot of stereo information, and when you monitor this movement here, the max is coming down is around here. So all these details, I put it into consideration and now use that information to adjust mine. And another thing, when I was playing the piano, you notice something. You see this movement going left, right, left, right. I discovered that the piano was padded with another instrument, like an E-piano that has this pan effect, like a modulation effect that was going left and right. All right, but we'll talk about that in a short while. So I first treated the grand piano by reducing it to around here. Let me turn off this and engage our on. All right, and one beautiful thing about this approach is just by looking at this, you notice that the piano is tilted to the right, more to the right. So you can actually adjust and correct that by just listening and adjusting this pan knob. So let me quickly do that. No, I think I'm going to fix that from this section here. All right, so at this point, it is super cool. Now, if you notice on the reference track, there is a lot of noise information here spreading up to this region, to show you how wide it is. That was actually coming from the room reverb or the type of reverb they used on the piano, right? So what I now did about that was to use another tool, which is not a free tool, called Chameleon. I use Chameleon. This is a plugin where you can use it to copy the room texture or feel of any material. All right. So what I did here was to use it to capture this reference track, this piano section. All right. Which is actually easy to do. You can achieve that by just, hold on. Before then, let's play so that you hear it with it before I make the corrections. So let me play ours right now. Sorry guys, like I told you, I'm using my backup system and it's not the best of laptops for, things like this. But anyways, if you compare the two, don't take it for what I'm saying. If you compare the two, you obviously see that I have sampled the color, the room reverb effect, if I may put it that way, from this original. All right, onto this. This is without it. and this is with it. Alright, though it is not there yet because the reference track has a lot more presence, while the one we're working on is a little bit dark. So to fix that, I can actually come over here. Think I applied a whole lot on this spectral balance, so I can actually use the mix knob to tame that down. Alright, so in this situation, have in mind we didn't get this sample from the reference track. So you need to put in work to balance things and make sure you sound similar to the reference track. But it is not a must because the idea here is to sample the tonal quality of the entire mix and master onto your own song. So it doesn't really matter if it sounds 100% to the reference track, alright? The point here is I'm trying to use what they use to make the project a success. Here I can hear a piano, I can hear an E piano with kind of pan effect on it that is soft. At some point at this region, I can also hear kind of strings that is like a violin. So if you listen critically, you can hear some sort of violin or string instruments playing at the background, which I'm going to also bring in as we progress. Yeah, it's very obvious here now. So just in conclusion, the idea is I'm trying to use every instrument they use and recreate something new of it. It's not a must it will be 100% similar to what they programmed or what they sequenced. Just trying to show you exactly how you can reverse engineer any track and achieve professional sounding quality even without a super high-end computer or being in a super expensive recording studio. All right, so now we've gotten the grand piano. Alright, for the Chameleon plugin, let me quickly show you with this demonstration what the plugin is about so that you understand what I'm using it for. On the screen here, you see two different takes. One is the one recorded inside a cathedral, so I just mimicked it by adding a cathedral reverb effect. Let me quickly show you. Alright, this is me recording inside a cathedral to capture the space. Testing, 1 and 2. And below is a clean take where I'll be transferring this space from this first one to. So let's quickly have a listen. Testing, trying out Chameleon 2 to understand how this plugin works. Testing. Alright, now, so all I need to do is to insert Chameleon at the master. Then I set for the first take to capture the first take. Alright, so what I will now do is just come here and click on create new reverb and then start playing. Alright, this is me recording inside a cathedral to capture the space. Testing, 1 and 2. So once it's done capturing, to analyze it, do its thing, and after that it will call up a section where you apply it, okay, as you can see. So you click on apply now, you now have it as a profile. All right, so let me quickly rename this and call it cat. All right, so and what you have here now is this space from this first take, and what I will do now is to transfer it to this dry one. So all I will do is I'm going to drag this from here into an empty channel. As you can see, 3. Then this one on the master, I will mute it. Then I'll come over to this. Okay, it's already sent to 3. I'll send it to that channel where I have it. And let's say you opened a new instance. Once you open it, you will just pick the library you want. It's loading it up. One moment. All right. Let me correct this. Cut. All right, then you save it. So when you save it, when you now open your library, you will see it there. All right, you click on it to load, it will load that library. And also you can see it comes with a whole lot of spaces you can emulate. You can see bathroom, you can see some other ones I've already created, book space, bridge. I mean, it's a whole lot. Okay, so now at this point, we'll now play where we are transferring the space to. Testing, trying out Chameleon to understand how this plugin works. If you listen clearly, you can see it is gradually coming in, but at this point, the weight is very low, so we'll increase it. Testing, trying out Chameleon to understand how this plugin works. Testing, trying out Chameleon to understand how this plugin works. Testing. All right, now to compare it with the first one, now let's see the difference. This is the first one. All right, this is me recording inside a cathedral to capture the space. All right, sorry about that. I need to bounce this. I need to render this so that my system can actually handle it. So let me quickly do that. Okay, and now we have the rendered one. You can also see the room reverb tail. So let's check it out. All right. And I think I will also bounce this one so that it will play smoothly. All right, so now let's preview. This is the original and this is the processed. All right, this is me recording inside a cathedral to capture the space. Testing, 1 and 2. Testing, trying out Chameleon to understand how this plugin works. So I believe you understand now. Two different recordings now brought together to appear like they're in the same space or recorded in the same space with the help of this plugin called Chameleon. So that is what Chameleon is used for. So now back to the tutorial, and one other thing, I rolled off a little bit of the piano. All right. So at this point, I think I'll just bounce this. All right, now we've gotten the piano so that we can have a smooth playback. All right, now I can now turn off all this. So now let's play it in context with the drums. So you can agree with me, it is not sounding bad. I mean, there is still more to do to it, like fine-tuning the reverb, you know, putting things in place, having more frequencies to cut out or to add, you know, to make everything sit nice. So this is basically how to reverse engineer something like this. Now, let me quickly do that of the bass instruments and add more other instruments that I can find out from the reference track, and I'll be right back. All right, now I'm done, you know, sequencing everything. And what I actually did was to extract the samples that I could extract from the reference track to recreate some instruments, and those that I couldn't get, I used the method I showed you by getting similar sound and using it to program. All right, and after that I try as much as possible to match the created one to the one in the reference track. So I also tried to program very similar to the video song so that we can easily compare. All right, and another thing I did was I sent everything in a group, like I bossed it. Here you can see the keys, and on the keys there is an EQ. As you can see, what this is, I played only the keys from the reference track, which is this one. And when I played only the keys, when you now add an EQ there, you can see what is happening with the frequencies, right? You can see there is a huge roll-off on this frequency section, and from this low mid, you can see a massive scoop up to this point. So what I actually did was just to add a guard, like I told you, so that nothing crosses. So what I did was to take out high frequencies by just doing this. But have in mind, you do this with your ears involved, and you check everything so that you don't eat too much from your sample. This is the first step, and then I rolled off some amount from this section. Then I also added on this mid just a minor dip, very little dip, gradually creating space for the vocal so that the instruments will not disturb or affect the vocals. And the major reason I'm doing it is because since it's not all the elements that I got from the reference track, assuming I got everything from the reference track, I won't go deep into doing all those things, all right? But for the fact I brought in foreign things into that production that I'm using the reference track to craft, so I have to do this so as to put everything and make everything sound like one whole project. And I'll also show you how to now sample the entire mix, because there is this point where we'll sample the whole mix, including the vocals and everything, or maybe we'll just focus on the instrumentals. We'll sample the whole mix from the reference track and layer it, use that extracted information using a dedicated plugin that will handle that to put it in the same room as of the reference track. All right, this is for the keys, and I have another group for the bass, and I did the same thing. If you bring up the bass, if you call up their bass, which is this one, I mean the reference bass, you still see the same thing happening. So that's just basically what I did. So you can see from this point to this end, it's literally empty, just with a little noise or saturation coming up here and there is a roll off here. So on the group, I did the same thing, as you can see, just to keep everything in check. And while doing it, I'm also judging with my ears, okay? So don't say because my shape is like this, you're going to copy it over. No, as you are setting it, you judge with your ear. Make sure it's not eating too much, and make sure at the end of the day, everything sound close to the reference track you are using. Then after that, I did for the drums, which is this one right here. Okay, so at the end of the day, if you bring everything together, we get a sound like this. I'm not sure if my system will allow me play this thing smoothly, but let's check. If it doesn't, I will have to consolidate it. All right, let's have a listen. All right guys, let me render it so that we can play it smoothly. Alright, I'll be stopping it there, and as you can see, it's not sounding bad. And have in mind, this is just a simple sketch I made out of the reference track, the samples I pulled out from the reference track. So now let me quickly just add Davido's voice. I pitched it a little bit to suit the key I used and also to avoid copyright. So let's take a listen. Alright, so before we conclude today's episode, you can see that what we have so far sounds amazing. Alright, though I'm not going to use Davido's voice, we'll be using our own voice, and that will be where I will walk you through how to process your vocals, trying to retain the texture, the compression, the reverb, everything from the reference track. So you can see that this reference track is a good guide, alright? And not only that, this will also help you understand what happens when you hear a sound or a song and it sounds amazing. You can see this will help you understand it better. From this section here on the mixer, we're able to see what is happening with the keys. We saw that a whole lot of high frequency information were taken out. There was a slight dip around the mid section and there was a roll off around this section. And with this, we now see, okay, they are creating space for the bass and the kick, space for the lead voice, and more space for also the lead voice and high frequency signals or information. And on the bass, you saw what happened. All these frequencies are not important. Without this, if you're mixing without all this information, sometimes you get worried. You'll be like, you don't know if you're doing it right, especially if you don't know the basics, okay? But with this information, you have strong belief and strong confidence that you know what you're doing, because if the professionals did this to achieve that result, replicating it makes it a lot easier, and at the end you get a result similar to what they have. Okay, now this is for the bass, and you can also see that of the drums, what happened. So I tried to use EQ to have it out, but that is not all, because at the end we will still use an overall processor to extract the overall texture and tonal quality and even the environment or the feel that comes from the reverb to apply it on our own projects. And that will be the last processing before we start the mastering phase. So, but let me know what you think. If you get confused at some point, if you have any question, maybe I skipped something, I forgot to say something, please let me know in the comments. I'm just a human, I make mistakes, but I promise you, any question you throw in, I'll give you an answer so long as I have it. Alright, so far, this is reverse engineering using a reference track, and we've just concluded the beat phase. The next will be about processing vocals, recording, and the rest of it. And before then, I will also throw more light on the previous one we treated, just in case I missed out something. So that will be it for today's video. If you found this video helpful, sorry it was too long and I had no choice than to give in this amount of time so that I can pull in everything necessary so that you guys will understand it better. So don't forget to leave a like, your comments, and share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't, and most importantly, turn on your bell notification so that when I upload the next episode, you'll be notified. As always, stay creative, stay focused, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.